Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome. Welcome, my designers. I'm so glad that you guys can be tuning in with me today. Let's see who we have in here so far. Hi, Liz. Welcome, Kasia. And Gracia, you made it. I'm so happy to see you here. Hey, Sivan, Pamela, Lori. Welcome. Super excited to have you all with me today. So just a couple of things I want to mention kind of before we actually dive in. The goal for today is to just really talk about how easy it is to get started and get set up. I think most of you have just recently joined Ivy. This might even be your first time logging in. So just want to start off by saying we're so excited for you. This is going to be an amazing system, and getting set up is super duper easy. One of the best pieces of feedback that I think we get from the majority of our designers is, oh my gosh, the onboarding, getting it all like configured and ready to go only took me 15, 20 minutes. So that's just a wonderful place to be, especially when you're starting with a new system. I know that can be a little intimidating and scary, but we're going to have a great time today. So just a quick sort of heads up for you, I will be pausing throughout the webinar just to check for questions. So if you see right below, there's an actual ask a question feature. I would really appreciate it if you could utilize that. Type your questions in there. That way, when I check back in, I can click into it and see all the questions that you have. And please do keep them relevant to the content of the webinar. We're really just going to be talking about the basics today. So I'm going to walk you through account settings. We're going to talk about the Ivy Smart Clipper. We'll talk about how to input your clients and vendors in one fell swoop rather than doing them all one by one manually. And then we'll also go through the ins and outs of creating a project. So I'm really hoping you guys will be able to walk away today with some actionable items that you can take home and kind of get started. So I think we're all set. We have the majority of our people here, so I don't want to delay. We have a lot to cover, so why don't we go ahead and dive in. I'm going to share my screen. Let's do this. All right, and okay, so I'm hoping you guys can all actually see my Ivy demo account. I did have a little bit of technical difficulty last time doing a webinar, so hopefully all's good. Let me just double check and make sure you can see it. Let's see. All right, looks good. So let's go ahead and get started. So what we're looking at right now is kind of our global dashboard. If this is your first time logging into Ivy, you might notice a series of onboarding prompts that are going to kind of help guide you through getting set up. Maybe you've already logged in and played around a little bit. But for today, I'm just going to start by coming right up here and clicking on this drop-down menu. And I'm going to actually access the My Account tab. And this is going to take me to my account settings. So this is the first thing I want to review today in our webinar. The account settings should really be the first thing that you do when you're starting to use Ivy. And it's really important to understand how getting these set up properly, it's going to allow Ivy to actually automate so much of the manual administrative tasks that you find yourself doing throughout your day-to-day. So why don't we go ahead and walk through each tab together. So this first one is your account info. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here. So basically just tell the system who you are, first and last name. You can put a picture of yourself if you'd like, your dog. I just have my initials. But down here, this is really important, putting your company details in. So you have your logo, your firm's information, the address. And as soon as you put this into your Ivy account and save this information, you have already set yourself up for being able to have branded documents. So all of the documents you create in Ivy and share with your clients and vendors are now going to have your logo and firm's information. So after 30 seconds of doing this, you've already set yourself up for so much of a time saver. I've talked to a lot of designers who talk about how they're always, starting off with a template with their letterhead, and like gone are the days of doing that. No more doing that. So hopefully you'll find this really exciting. Put that information in there. And one last thing I want to also talk about here on this particular page, if you have any questions about your subscription, maybe you want to know when your billing cycle is, where you are in regards to your project allotment, you can see that all right down here. So just a good tip for you guys. Let's move on to our next tab. Okay, so payments. Taking online payments in Ivy is super duper easy. All you have to do is come right into the payments tab. Keep in mind, this is only visible to the admin. So every Ivy account has an admin, which basically kind of has overall access to everything and sort of sets the tone for the rest of the users. So if you're not seeing this tab, then you're probably not the admin. But that's okay. At least you know that it exists and you can take that information back to your manager or admin. So what do you have to do to get set up for online payments? Just come right in here, input this information. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can kind of see everything. So just ask for really general information, bank account routing number. A lot of people ask, hey, Sarah, I don't really have an EIN number at this time. That's okay. I believe if you put in a full social, that should work just fine. Or if you have a tax ID code, that should also suffice. So once you've gone in and actually put all the information in, click Verify My Account. It takes about 3 to 4 minutes to get verified. I recommend just refreshing your page. You'll see a big green check mark letting you know that you're good to go. And from there, any proposal or invoice that you send to your client, they have the option to pay you online. So Ivy is a huge advocate for designers getting their money quickly. The convenience of being able to pay online is super helpful. So hopefully you guys want to take advantage of this perk that Ivy offers. If for any reason you're not ready to set up your bank account, that's okay. You can still record any payments you receive outside of Ivy in the system. So it's not a mandatory thing that you need to use, but it really is a great feature and we hope that you'll utilize it. All right, so moving on, this next tab, team and rates. This is important for a couple of different reasons. First and foremost, we have a lot of one-woman, one-man shows, but maybe you're a little bit of a larger firm. You have an assistant or you have, an equal, a bookkeeper, you have someone that does your procurement, whatever the case. Here's where you want to come to actually add them on to your Ivy account. So everybody should have their own unique login. No sharing passwords or usernames. We don't recommend that. You have unlimited users, so why wouldn't you add them, right? Okay, so it's really easy to do that. You can actually see that I have a couple of people on my account, including myself and some other people. So the other reason why this tab is also important is it's going to allow you to create all the different service rates that you're going to wind up billing out for. So if you're a designer that charges hourly, this is going to be your bread and butter. You can come in here and create your rates, and it will allow you to easily create time billing invoices. Maybe you don't bill hourly. Either way, I've talked to a lot of designers, and many times we underestimate how long it's going to take us to do something. Maybe you've been doing this for a long time and you can look at a room and say, no, I know that's only going to take me 10 hours. That's fine. You can still create a service in your service library that will allow you to bill for a chunk of time or for a specific flat rate if you choose to do so. However, I still recommend coming in here and creating rates because you can still track your time. You can mark it as unbillable, and we'll look at that in just a moment. But first, I want to show you how to add a team member. So I'm going to do that just by coming right up here and clicking Add Team Member. This window is going to pop open for me. Put in your team member's information, first and last name, their role. The email that you put in here will actually be the email that they log in with. So you want to make sure it's a professional email. You can also input their employee cost. Although Ivy is not necessarily a payroll system, we do offer a specific report that will kind of compare what you're paying them versus what they're charging your clients. And you can kind of see the profit, if you will, or any discrepancies between that. So feel free to input all that. Down here, you have the ability to set the user permissions. So you can see there's a couple of different sort of categories that we've broken up the user permissions into. First one is access all rates. You'll notice that some of these are grayed out and some of these are turned blue. So blue means yes, they have access. Gray means no, they cannot access it. We've kind of already gone in and provided you with the recommended default settings. However, you are the manager, you are in control of your business. You get to determine who has access to what. So I'll kind of walk you through what these different permissions mean, and you can sort of decide for yourself what will be best for your team. So accessing all rates, this would basically mean that whoever has access to this can go into your teams and rates and see what everyone else is charging for their work. If that's not a big deal, go ahead and give people access. We all maybe make the same, whatever the case, feel free to turn that on or off. And then managing employee cost, that would allow them to also see everyone else's employee cost. Most of the time we recommend that maybe that sensitive information isn't accessible to your whole team. So we have it defaulted grayed out. Down here, invoices and proposals. Notice that we have the documents broken up into client-facing versus vendor-facing. We understand that you might have different people on your team, one that handles, the purchasing and the procurement versus the actual sort of pulling of products and conceptualization phase. So we can give you the ability to allow them to just view, send, or actually manage these documents. And feel free to determine based on their role what would be best. We recommend that they have access to do this, but again, everyone's role is different, so you make that decision. Down here, we're getting into a little bit more of sensitive information. So your account settings, this is what sets the default for how your Ivy account will work and function. You want your settings to be consistent throughout your whole account. So it's probably a good idea to just maybe have one person have access to that. So we do recommend that one turned off. Viewing the project dashboard, that's basically just being able to click into a project and kind of see an update. I think that's probably okay for people to see, but again, you can make that decision. A few other options here, viewing the global dashboard and then accessing your QuickBooks management. If you do decide to integrate with QuickBooks, again, that's all of your business information, super duper sensitive, probably recommend keeping that off. And then down here, reports and insights, your business reports, full of a lot of really important information, might want to keep that off. But the insights bar, what that is basically when you click into Ivy or click into a particular project or specific document, it'll give you kind of insights, total revenue, total markup, all that really good, interesting information that you want to see at a glance. So once you've decided how you want them to be able to access the account, go ahead and hit save. They're going to get an email with their username and a temporary password. They can get logged in and start working alongside of you in Ivy. Super simple to get your team on Ivy. Okay, so now let's talk about teams and rates here. So you'll notice that I actually have a couple of different examples. So I'm positioning myself as a designer who bills hourly, and you can see that I have a couple of different sample rates here. I have my initial consultation and what I charge, my design rate and what I charge. These are all just, of course, fictitious examples that I'm utilizing. So you can go in and actually set up your own rates. How do you do that? Just click on Set Up New Rate. This little window will pop open, and you can input a service type. So, if you maybe want to do art hanging, maybe you specialize in hanging artwork and you want to charge for that, art hanging or installation. Maybe you charge $50 an hour for that. Now this MSRP function is here just in case you are maybe including a rate that is considered below the standard manufacturer suggested retail price, if you will, or what the standard rate is. So let's just say, for example, most people would charge $100 an hour. Maybe you're offering this service at a bit of a discount. Maybe you're offering it at 75 versus 100. You can input, the MSRP price here, if you will. If you are going to be billing out for this service, you will want to mark it as billable. Now, maybe for those other designers out there that are thinking, I do want to kind of track my time. I do want to have an idea of where, what services are taking up the most of my time. If you're not necessarily going to be billing for them, you can click on No, and that will allow you to still utilize that service without actually, being sent out for billing. So you can determine whether this service will be billable or not. The description's internal, so you can kind of create a nice description for you and your team. And then, of course, if you live in a city or area where services are taxable, you'll want to go ahead and hit that taxable button just to make sure you're collecting taxes. I'm living in a city where services are not taxable, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit Create Rate, and I'll leave that unchecked. And that's how you create a rate. Super easy to do. And keep in mind, your team members can come in and create their own rates as well. You're also able to go in and create rates for them. So hopefully you can see how easy that is. All right, so sales tax. This is actually a really cool feature that we just implemented not too long ago. You will always want to make sure that when you create a project, you are associating a sales tax with it. So I'm pretty sure Ivy won't let you save a project without sort of selecting what sales tax you want. So it's really important to come in here and kind of put in your different sales tax that you might be using. You can also put default tax settings for both products and services. So once again, if you're working in an area where pretty much everything's taxable, go ahead and mark these as both taxable. That way, when you create new products or create new services, you will know kind of they're already going to be marked and you won't have to worry about that. So I'm going to leave my services checked as untaxable. My products, I'll default taxable. And then down here, you can see I have different tax rates as well. So maybe you're a designer that works in a couple of different areas. I know that tax rates can change based on what county you're in. So there's a good chance that you're probably going to need more than one tax rate. And in order to add one, all you have to do is just come right up here, click Add Sales Tax. You put the tax name, the agency, and the rate. Then hit Create Sales Tax. Super easy, right? So once you have all that set up, you should be good to go. Now I'm going to jump over to our Settings tab. This is one of my absolute favorite tabs within the account settings of Ivy because it really helps streamline a lot of that nitty-gritty administrative work that designers find themselves doing, and it takes up a lot of time. So just keep in mind, this is another one of those tabs that would only be accessible to the admin on the account. So Payments tab and Settings tab, only accessible to the admin on the account. So what are we looking at down here? Basically, what this tab allows is you're going to notice at the bottom of every document that you create in Ivy, whether it's a proposal or an invoice or a purchase order, there will be sort of a memo section at the bottom of that document. And it is totally up to you what you want to have in that memo section. This is a really great place to put any terms and conditions or T's and C's. I went ahead and created my own custom memos based on what type of a document is. So Ivy will provide you with some default memos. You can certainly keep those, but I really recommend taking advantage of the fact that these will always be stamped at the bottom of your document. So you don't have to go in and type out your terms and conditions, cut, copy, and paste it in there. They will already be in there for you. So for my proposal memo, you can see that I thanked the client. I let them know that custom orders are non-refundable, and I also give them a heads up that shipping and freight will be included in the invoice. And my memo message changes in my invoice document as well as my purchase order. So please feel free to go in here and actually customize these messages. That way you can rest assured that every time you're sending a document, it has all of this really important information. Use the memo section as a way to communicate all the important things that you need your client to know before moving forward to the next phase. And same goes with your email messages. So right down here below, every document that you create in Ivy and share with your client or vendor will actually come in the form of an email. So if you want to sort of tailor that email message, come on in here and go ahead and create whatever type of message that you want. Again, Ivy will provide you with sort of some starter off defaults. You can build on those, or you can just completely erase them. You do have the ability when you're sending a document to actually go in and edit that email message. So if you want to just have a few quick sentences that will always be there and you can build off of later, feel free to come in here and actually add those in. This is such a time saver, so please utilize this feature. It really is helpful and people love it. A few other things down here for project settings. So progressive invoicing. This is a little bit more of an advanced feature, but it is very, very handy. It can help a lot with maybe longer proposals that you want to convert some items to an invoice and collect payment, but you're not ready to collect payment on everything. So if you turn on progressive invoicing, it will allow you to progressively invoice your items. The system defaults it as off, but if you want to have it turned on, just come on in here and select this button here. So I have it turned on in my account. You guys can do that as well. One other thing that we have in the settings tab are the email settings for payment reminders. So I've talked to designers, and something that kind of has been a little bit of an awkward thing is when our clients are delinquent, they haven't paid on time, we're waiting to get our money. The last thing we want to do is, get on the phone or write an email and kind of be sort of the bad guy. But Ivy will be the bad guy for you. You can actually set payment reminders right here in this section. So Ivy actually allows you, once a document is past its due date, you will be able to send payment reminders. You can select from immediately after due date, 2 weeks after due date, 1 month, or if you don't want to send them, select never. And then you get to determine how long those reminders will be sent. So you can see that I have selected immediately after due date. My clients will be getting a payment reminder every other day for 5 days. So that's how you set that up. You can change this to 30 days. I would hope that they'd pay you by then, but maybe give them a week of reminders. And again, that will be sent out every other day. So last thing down here are our custom field settings. What does that mean? So this actually ties into one of the most amazing features and tools that Ivy has to offer called the Project Tracker. Project Tracker is an amazing sort of, I guess you could say Excel spreadsheet type thing, but it tracks everything and it's all filled in automatically for you as you kind of go through the different phases of your project. If you find that you need a custom column within your project tracker, here's where you can come and add that custom field. I do have one designer who loves the fact that she can add in her tracking number field. So just keep in mind you can do that and you can add up to 5 custom column fields within your project tracker. Okay. All right, so we're just moving on along here. I'm gonna bounce over here into our next tab. This is our address book. So I will say, when I first started with Ivy, I kind of was confused. Like, what is this feature? Do I have to put all my addresses in here? Gosh, that's a lot of work, right? So technically, no. What this is a place for you to put your common ship to addresses. So think about it. Maybe you do a lot of custom work and the products and things that you're purchasing are not going to be shipped directly to your client's home. Maybe you use a receiving warehouse. So things like that, you'll want to put those addresses here in your address book. Once you have them saved in the address book, you'll be able to pull from a drop-down menu and select whatever address you need for that particular purchase order. So that should come in handy for you. You can see I have a couple of different examples. I have my office as a quick ship. I have my receiving warehouse. I have my go-to upholster, Andy Estrada, and then my window treatments gal. So just remember, commonly used shipping addresses should be put into your address book for convenience and ease of use. All right, so that's account settings. I'm gonna pop back here into our webinar. I'm gonna quickly stop sharing real quick just to check in on you guys and see how everyone's doing. So let's see, it doesn't look like we have any questions. I see that Savon's been helping out with asking questions on the sidebar. Again, please, if you do have questions, utilize the ask a question box. That way I can make sure to get to it. So as you can see, we've only been doing this for 20 minutes and we were able to get our whole account set up basically. There's really only 1 or 2 more things I want to show you in regards to getting set up that will help you with kind of getting everything taken care of in a quick manner. So one sec while I go ahead and share my screen again and we'll pop back into Ivy. All right. So I'm still in my account settings, but I'm going to go back into my Ivy account. And one other thing that designers have really, really loved about Ivy is how easy it is to get all their vendors and all their clients into their library without having to manually enter each one by one. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So you'll notice here on the left-hand side, let me zoom out just a little bit so you can see everything. We have all of our different libraries here. I'm going to click into my vendor library. So you can see once this loads that I have quite a few vendors in here. And I promise you this, I did not go in and add each one of these manually. So let me zoom out so you can kind of see the whole screen here. If you wanted to just add vendors in one by one, maybe you're kind of a smaller firm or you're just getting started and you only have a handful of vendors that you work with, go ahead and click here to add the vendor. Now, if you're a firm that's been in business for a while and you've got a long list of vendors, maybe in an Excel spreadsheet or in a different system that you've used in the past, how do you get all that information into Ivy? Well, we've made it really easy for you. All you have to do is come right up here to this 3-dot icon, and you'll see that you can download our import template. Basically, all it is it's an Excel spreadsheet file, and it has several columns across the top, and you can cut, copy, and paste all your vendor information into that template. Just a couple of pieces of advice for you. I know it might look a little awkward because all the columns are kind of arranged in a specific order. Many times designers want to add their own columns or they want to open up the sizing. Don't edit the template, because if you edit the template, you will find that you have a difficult experience with getting it uploaded. So keep that template as is. just copy and paste the relevant information. You know, for example, if you don't have an account number with that vendor, just leave that part blank. You don't have to put anything in there. So once you get that template all filled in, all you have to do is save it to your laptop or desktop as a CSV file. And then you can come back into Ivy and you can import that. And it's going to have all your vendors ready to go in your library for you. Super easy to do. Shouldn't take you too much time. Hopefully you have an electronic copy of your vendor list and client list. If not, that's okay. Don't feel overwhelmed. I always say that add them in as you need them. Don't feel like you have to sit down and put them all in at one time. Just add them in as you need them, and then your Ivy libraries will grow. So that's my advice to you for that. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is how to actually create a project. So keep in mind just sort of some best practices. Ivy is project-based. So what that means is really kind of in order to get started, you need to create a project. So let's go through how to do that together. I'm going to click on projects right up here. And you can see that I can basically view all my projects are in alphabetical order. I have a couple in here that I've been working on. But if I need to create a new project, I can click right into here. Or notice here on the right-hand side, it kind of has this ready there for me to go. So either way gets you to the same place. I'm going to use this feature, create new project. And you can see that we have a couple of different fields down here to fill in. So let's go through all the ins and outs of this. The first thing the system wants to know is who's the client associated with this project. So if you've already gone in and added clients to your client library, you can select from a drop-down menu here. You can see that I have several clients in here already, but maybe I'm working with a new client. So I'm actually going to add in a new client here. And my new client will be Bridget Conk. I'll put in her information here. Bridget at email.com. Put in her phone number, address, city, state, and of course, if it's maybe more of a commercial project and they're a company, you can put their company information in there. But this is going to be a residential client, so I'm just going to hit save. And that's how easy it is to add a new client. You can see that it's filtered in here. Then you'll want to give your project a name. So I've adopted the habit of naming all my projects after the street that the address is on. You can do whatever you want, use the client's name. Maybe you have some type of special sort of coding that you want to stay organized. Feel free to name your projects whatever you want. One piece of advice that I do want to give some of my newer designers that are very new to Ivy is you do not need to create a new project for everything that you do for one client. Let me kind of explain what I mean by that. I've seen designers before create a project for Stephanie's living room, then they create a project for Stephanie's kitchen, Stephanie's master bedroom. You don't need to do that. If it's the same address and same client, really, I recommend keeping it all under one project. Ivy's a project-based system. You don't want to use up all your projects on one client, right? So my rule of thumb is if it's the same year and it's the same client and it's the same address, continue to work within that one project. I have seen designers that have a client and they've maybe worked on their summer home and then their winter home. You might want to have two different projects for that. It's two different addresses. I think that that's probably a good rule of thumb. So hopefully that makes sense to you. So I'm going to go ahead and name this project Pine Street. Now the project code, this is a really cool feature. It kind of explains what it is here. So the project code helps you identify your documents. In Ivy, the documents are basically numerically numbered, but they don't really specify, if you were just to look at all your proposals, they don't necessarily specify which project they're attached to. So adding a project code will help with organizing and streamlining and being able to see what belongs to what. So I usually just use the last three letters of the the first three letters of the person's last name. So my project code for this will be CON. You can actually use up to 6 alpha or numeric characters for your project code. Budget, go ahead and say she's willing to spend 50 grand. Again, we got to choose our sales tax. I let you guys know that without a sales tax, you can't save a project. So she lives in California. That's my sales tax rate. Project owner. So if you work for a firm and there's a lot of different employees, maybe you're all working on different projects. I am the owner of this project, which basically gives me access to all the documents. Unless otherwise specified, all the documents will be in my name, and all of the sort of calendar invites and updates will be sent to me because I am the project owner. So if I needed to switch this and make it someone else, I could just click and select a different person. Cover photo is great. You can do an inspiration photo. You can do a sketch of sort of a rendering, if you will. You can really do anything you want. I'll just go ahead and select something random from, let's see if I have something nice. This is cool. So we're doing her living room. I'm going to include an inspiration photo. Now, scope of project. This is really just kind of for you if you want to make some notes about what is this project going to entail. You know, we're going to be remodeling the living room, adding new flooring, adding in a mantle, whatever the case, go ahead and put that here. And for rooms, this is awesome because every time you put a room in here, so let's do living room and master bedroom. By adding these rooms, Ivy's going to automatically create a room board for you. So be sure if you are working on a project with multiple rooms that you utilize this feature within the project. General notes. This is a place for you to put notes about the client, anything special that they really, really want, maybe their style choices. You know, Bridget's a single girl. She's got a dog, really into mid-century modern, likes neutrals. You get the picture. Put whatever you think is going to be valuable to you and your team. Okay, so now we need to determine the project address. So this is kind of where the address book comes in handy. I'm just going to basically say that I do want the billing address to be my client's address, so I'm going to keep that. But I want to make sure that all of the products I order are going to go to my receiving warehouse because I'm the type of designer that orders products, has them sent to my receiving warehouse, and then we do one big installation day. So if that's something similar to what you guys do, you might want to add an address to this project. So I'm going to add my receiving warehouse from that drop-down menu. And this will be my default shipping address. So this is going to be really handy for my POs. So when you're going to be sending out your purchase orders to your vendors, they need to know where to ship the products, right? So we're determining this as our default shipping address, and we have our client's address as the billing address. All right, so one last thing I want to show you. This is something that gets a little overlooked, but it really is an important part of the project settings. This should look kind of familiar. So we did go through our account settings, and in the settings tabs, I showed you how to create default memos and email messages. You can also do that on the project level. Why is that valuable? Well, think about it this way. No two clients are the same. Maybe you have sort of a different conversation style with one client. Maybe one's a family member or a friend, and you really want to maybe change your terms and conditions. Whatever the case, you can actually come in here and update your project memos. So keep in mind, if you don't do anything in here, whatever you have in your global settings will be in effect. However, if you come into your project settings and update your memos and emails, those will override for that specific project. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense and that's clear. Feel free to utilize this to update your memos and emails on a project level versus a global level. Okay. And then, of course, if you do want to make it a little bit easier for yourself, you can kind of set these different defaults for online payments. We don't really get into online payments in this webinar, but just so you know, clients can pay through credit card and bank transfer. And if you want to have that setting available, you can turn that on. Maybe they're the type of client that just wants to use credit card. Save yourself the time and you can just uncheck this. That way, when you send them documents for payment, only the credit card option is available. Okay, so this was a really great feature that designers were happy to have. So now we're done. We're going to save our project. Super easy to create projects in Ivy. I'm going to come back and just quickly check on our questions before we dive into the Clipper. Let's see. Okay. I'm not seeing any questions, so hopefully everything's making sense and things are clear. I am noticing quite a few questions in the side column, so Sivan, I appreciate you kind of taking the reins with that. But if people want to utilize that question feature, I would appreciate that, and I will be able to answer your questions for you. So we're going to go ahead now and dive into one of my absolute favorite features within Ivy, the product clipper. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you guys again. All right, very cool. All right, so I am actually going to pop over to one of my favorite retail websites so I can show you how to utilize the clipper. But just a few best practices for you guys. Ivy really is optimized in Google Chrome. So hopefully you're already familiar with Google Chrome and you're using that as your preferred web browser. It's a very strong, trustworthy web browser. And not only that, the Ivy Clipper itself is an extension of the Google Chrome web store. So in order to use the Clipper, you really do need to be in Google Chrome. So hopefully that makes sense. So how do you get the Clipper installed? Well, all you have to do is just click on this drop-down menu and you can select Product Clipper. When you do that, it's going to take you to the Google Chrome extension store. And all you have to do is click on this big blue button. You'll notice that mine says remove from Chrome because I already have mine installed. But for anyone that's new to Ivy and hasn't installed the Clipper yet, go ahead and click on Add to Chrome. That's what that button will read for you. Once you do that, you're going to notice this little Ivy leaf up in your toolbar. And that is basically verification, letting you know, hey, your extension's been installed correctly, and now you can actually utilize the Ivy Clipper. So the Clipper is amazing. It will help you with quick sourcing for products and materials, and we've even updated it to implement something called smart sourcing on 5 of the most popular websites that our designers are using. So let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to pop over to CB2, and you can see that I've selected this really pretty rose quartz mirror. I want to utilize this in the project that I'm working on for my client, Bridget Conk. So how do I get all this information, all the product details, the pricing, the vendor into my product library so I can pull that product and put it into my project? All you have to do, there's actually 2 different ways you can do it. You'll notice that once the Clipper is installed, anytime you hover over an image, you'll see this little leaf, and that's indicating that the Clipper is active, and you can click it and notice what happens. On the right-hand side, your Clipper toolbar will pop out, and you can see that Smart Sourcing is active. The reason it's active is because I'm on CB2. So just to give you a heads up, Smart Sourcing works on 5 websites as of today. They are CB2, Build, Wayfair, West Elm, and Houzz.com. So our intention is to hopefully grow that and utilize different websites. These were just the top 5 that people had requested. So if you utilize maybe more trade vendor websites, that is fine. You can still utilize the Clipper. Smart Sourcing is just not available. So what do I mean by Smart Sourcing? If you look here in the toolbar, you'll see that a lot of this information has kind of already been filled in for me. The SKU number, the dimensions. So that's what I mean by Smart Sourcing. It grabs the image for you. It grabs the title. It kind of does a little bit of the work for you. But if for any reason you're on a website and you're clipping a product that, you know, isn't on a Smart Sourcing website, no problem. I'll show you how to actually get all the information into your Clipper right now. So keep in mind, you can actually upload up to 5 images per product. For a mirror, you may not need a whole lot of different images. Maybe you want a close-up of the hardware and a full-length shot. But think about maybe something like a sofa or an armoire. You'll want to get maybe the side shot, the interior shot, a close-up of the hardware. So you can have up to 5 images per product. So let's see. I do want to get this really pretty close-up of the hardware picture. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And see how just by clicking the leaf, it adds it over here into my product gallery, or to my picture gallery, I should say. So once again, up to 5 images. You can notate which one you want to be the cover photo, and then of course, anything else that's extra. If I maybe need to remove an image, I can just hit that trash can right there. Okay, so now I have these 2 images, a full shot and the picture of the hardware. I have my title in there. Just want to make a quick best practice tip that I want to share with you guys. Please make sure to actually include the real title when you're clipping your products. I know in the back of your mind, you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, I don't want to share this information with my client. I don't want them to know where this product came from or what it's called. They can just go online and Google it, right? Well, the good news is what you're doing right now is just saving this information into your own Ivy product library. None of this information is being shared with the client. And Ivy is so smart that they understand that you might want to go in after you've saved a product and edit it to be a little bit more ambiguous. However, for the clipping process, do yourself a favor and be as specific and as correct and accurate as possible. So I'll show you what I mean by that. You do want to have the actual information from the website. Why that's important. So if I were to just save this mirror as mirror, and then my client said, yes, I love this mirror, let's go ahead and purchase it, I want this in my home, and then I were to create a purchase order, Ivy's gonna pull that product information with just the title mirror. I send it to my vendor, they're not gonna know what I'm talking about when I say mirror, right? So it's really a benefit to you to save all the information accurately. And I promise there's a time and a place where you can go into that product after it's been added to the project. You can give it an alias title and you can make sure that the client is only seeing the relevant client-facing information versus the vendor-facing information. So again, this is why I love the Clipper. It's like a genius little tool. It makes your life so much easier. So let's dive into some of these fields. So the Clipper is super smart. It knows what the MSRP price is. So $159, it put that in there for me. Now, I actually was playing around with this yesterday, and I think that's why this information was saved. But normally what this would look like, these would be completely blank. And you can utilize this in a couple of different ways. So as designers, depending on where you're sourcing your products, you may be receiving some type of a discount. Right? I know that trade manufacturers and trade vendors usually offer deeper discounts, which are great. Some of our retail vendors offer a smaller discount. Wherever you're purchasing your product from, you might want to implement a markup. So how do you utilize this? You can do a few different things. So first and foremost, start with that MSRP price. The MSRP price is what the client would pay if they were not utilizing your services whatsoever. If they were to find this in a retail store, no sales going on, no discounts. So we can see $159 would be the cost for them. Now, as a designer, you might get a little bit of a discount. So whatever you get from this vendor, go ahead and put what it would cost you to purchase that product. I'm gonna say this mirror would cost us $75. You're probably wondering, well, how can I figure that out? Hopefully you understand what your discounts are with your different vendors. Just use your calculator and you can kind of calculate that for yourself. But that's kind of the only math you're gonna have to do, which is really helpful. So markups help us make money, help us make profit. So there's a few different things I can do. If you have a standard markup that you use across the board, maybe it varies based on the vendor, go ahead and put that markup in there. Or if you're like, oh, I don't know what I want to mark it up, but I know what I want to sell it for. I want to sell it for just below retail. So my client feels like they're getting a little bit of a discount. So I'm going to actually tell the system that I want my client to pay $130 for this mirror. Now, they're saving $30, which is great, and I'm making an additional $55. Again, this is just an example. You guys can utilize this in any way you want. Either start by inputting the MSRP and what it's going to cost you. Then you can add in your markup if you want, or you can start by saying, this is how much I want the client to pay, and Ivy does all the math for you. And you can see what your profit is right away, as well as your client savings if you are passing along any savings. So I'm going to hit set. And this is a retail vendor, so I know that this product will be taxable. I'll go ahead and check that off. And keep in mind, when we were in our account settings, under our tax settings, I have all products marked as taxable. So that's why Ivy knows to keep that checked as taxable. If for any reason this was a vendor that maybe didn't charge tax, I could just quickly uncheck that box. Now, client description. Great place to put the flowery details about the product, anything that you think the client would really want to know. I'm just going to cheat and grab this information right off of the internet here. So watch how I do this. I'm just highlighting this text, and this little thing will pop out here and it'll let me know, where do you want me to put this information? So this is going to be my client description. I'll go ahead and select that, and it gets popped right into there. Super easy to do. All right, so now we need to put a category for this product. Ivy will give you some default categories, but you are more than welcome to go into your product library and create as many categories as you want. Maybe you want to be super specific and have categories for chandeliers, wall sconces, canned lighting, recessed lighting, whatever the case, be as specific as you want. Again, I'm just going to keep this simple. It's going to be an accessory. I don't think I have a mirror category. So if I wanted to add a mirror category, I could do that by clicking here and adding a new category. Okay, but for now, I'm just going to keep it simple and do accessories. Now I need to select a vendor. This is very important. You can't save a product without a vendor, I don't believe. So I already have all my vendors loaded. We learned how to do that a little earlier. So I'll select CB2 for my drop-down menu. And one other cool feature you can do, if you know that you're clipping this product for a specific project, save yourself the time and go ahead and assign that product to the specific project. So I know that I'm going to be clipping this for my Pine Street project with Bridget. So I'll select Pine Street. And because when I was creating my project, I let the system know that I'm going to be working on 2 different rooms, it has the ability for me to assign this product to a specific room. If you're still in the conceptualization phase and you're just clipping products, you don't know what project you're going to be using it for, you don't know what room it's going to go in, that's okay. The clipper just provides this information in case you know it. If you don't stress out, that's okay. Some people just clip products to have them. They know that they use the same throw over and over again, or they kind of have their go-to lamps or rugs, whatever the case, that's okay. I just want you to understand kind of what these different things are, even if you're not going to be utilizing them. So I'm going to say that this mirror is actually going to be for her master bedroom. Now, there's just a few other additional details here, and this is mostly for your purchase orders. So manufacturer, we can find that usually here, made in India. So that'll be our manufacturer, finish and color. Go ahead and get that. It really is important to try and capture as many of these details as possible when you're clipping products. If you clip a product with very vague generic information, it's not going to be helpful for you down the road, because once you actually start pulling it into your projects, you really can't go in and make updates to that. So save your products with as much information as you can. If I did have a designer the other day write in, and she was talking about how she saved a product without including the finishes, and because she didn't know what finish she was going to go with. So now that she determined her finish, she wasn't actually able to go in and update the finish. So what she had to do is go back to the product library, update it there, and then re-add the product to the project. So in order to avoid having to do that, we really recommend trying to get as much information as you can, okay? So I'm going to make sure to put my finish and color in there, and my materials. Okay, well, I think you guys get the picture. A couple other things I want to put in here. If you have a vendor description, think about it if you're doing maybe a custom piece and you want to put some information in there for a custom sofa or for any specifications of the fabric, you can put that here. That would only be available to your vendor. That would only show up on the purchase order, so you don't have to worry about that in your client-facing documents. Internal notes, again, anything for you that you want to know about the product, just go ahead and put that here. And then this last part is actually one of my favorite things about the clipper. It's the tag feature. So you already have a title, you already have a vendor, you already have a category, but eventually your product library is going to get filled with products and materials, right? And at some point, you might want to be able to quickly filter and find certain things. So that's where I recommend using the tag feature. What type of tags would I use for something like this? Well, it's a mirror. So I'm going to go ahead and use mirror. I'm also going to use brass because it has a brass ornament or embellishment, if you will, and it does have the color pink in it. I'm just using keywords or sort of key phrases or key terms that will allow me to then go into my product library. And if I want to maybe find everything that has brass, if I've saved that product with the tag of brass, it'll pull it up for me. So it makes keeping your library organized really easy. So I always say, rule of thumb, give every product at least 3 tags just to keep it easy. All right, so let's save this product. I know we're just pushing along here. Got about 12 minutes left. So now that you guys know how to get your account set up, you understand how to upload your clients and vendors, and you know how to use the product clipper, the last thing I want to go through is how to take those products from your library and actually add them to the project. So let me go ahead and click out of here. Just keep in mind, if you wanted to continue clipping, you could do so. I can close out of here. I can find a new product. I can go to a different website and use my Clipper. The options are endless. So I really hope that after this webinar, you guys install your Clipper and start using it. It's a lot of fun. All right, so let's pop back into Ivy now. I'm just gonna quickly check to see if you guys have any questions. Let me stop sharing. Oh, we have 2 questions. Okay, cool. Let's see. From Liz, is it possible to create specification sheets? If so, how can we do that? Also, is there a way you can track time without attaching it to a specific project? Liz, these are amazing questions. I'm so glad that you're asking very kind of detailed questions. I'm gonna plan to touch base with you after the webinar. These are a little bit more advanced, but I appreciate the question. So I'll make sure that I email you or I have your client service manager reach out, and we'll definitely go through that. To answer them really quickly, you can create tear sheets, which are kind of our version of specification sheets, and Ivy does that for you automatically. Whoops, sorry guys, I think my camera might be off. 1 second. All right, can you guys see me? Sorry about that. Can I get a little thumbs up in the chat, making sure you guys can see me? Lost me. Okay, sorry about that. I have my camera on. So once again, oh, I'm back. Okay, maybe it was just a quick glitch. Sorry about that. So, okay, we're back. Great. So what was I saying? Yeah, so Liz, you can do specification sheets, and then tracking time without it being billing or without it being attached to a specific project. That is a great question. I do have a recommendation for you, and we'll talk about that a little later. So let me see what else we have here. How do you add another image after I have saved a project without going back to the product website? Okay, that's a great question. So let's actually dive into our product library right now, and I'll show you how you can do that. Totally understandable. Maybe you clipped 1 or 2 pictures, but you want to add something else to that product. So I'll do that now. 1 sec here. All right, I want to share my screen again. Okay. All right, so I'm popping back into Ivy. I'm gonna go into my product library. So after you've clipped all the products that you think you're gonna need, or maybe you've clipped a handful of products and you're ready to actually add them to a project, it's so easy to do. So I'm gonna pretend that I've clipped a bunch of products and I know which ones I wanna use for Bridget. Maybe I could even use her last name as a tag and search by her last name, and everything with that tag would pop up. I didn't do that, so either way, I'll just go ahead and pretend that I have, maybe a couple of items here. So all I have to do is select the items that I want to add to the project, right? Chandelier. This again is where tags come in handy. So had I given the 10 or 12 products that I clipped for a specific project a tag of the client's name or the project name, I could just search right up here. I have a project called Willow Lane, and I used to do this for this one. So let me show you this example here. Notice how I search the tag Willow Lane, and I have all these products ready to go. So I'll use this as an example. I'm just going to select all of these lovely products that I have set aside for that project. And once I have all the ones selected, all I have to do is come right up here, and I can add them to whatever project I want. Okay, so it has my project list here. It's in alphabetical order. So if these were all for Willow Lane, I could assign them to Willow Lane. If I had clipped these for Pine Street, I could assign them to Pine Street. Super, super easy. So I'm gonna hit save now. And that's how you get products into your actual project if you don't assign them from the Clipper, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. You can save yourself one step by clipping and assigning it to the project right then and there within the Clipper. Or if you didn't do that, you found yourself clipping a bunch of inspiration pics, then you want to go in and really narrow it down. Go ahead and use this feature where you can come into the product library and add by clicking and using that drop-down menu. So now I want to address the question about how would I add a picture to a product that I've already saved. So what I recommend is you have to do a little bit of manual work, but I would take that picture from the website. So let's do an example here. So maybe I wanted to actually include this image here of the photo, or sorry, of the mirror you know, in an actual scene to use as sort of an inspiration pic that I want to include. So all I'm going to do is take a screenshot of this. Screenshots are really easy to do. If you have a Mac, it's Command-Shift-4. If you have an HP, you just do print screen, and it takes a screenshot for you. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into that mirror. Let's find it. Let's search mirror. So I have a couple mirrors in here. Here we go. So I'm going to click into this product, and I want to update the images. So I can do that just by clicking plus, and it takes me to my screenshots. Let me see if I can find it real quick. 1 second. This is interesting. All right, there we go. There we go. Okay. So I have added that image now to my product library from a product that I've already clipped. So hopefully that answers your question. Let me pop back into here and stop sharing my screen. And who did that question come from? Catherine. So Catherine, I hope that that answers your question. If you didn't happen to actually clip all the photos that you wanted, it would just be a matter of taking a screenshot, saving it to your desktop or laptop, and then adding it in manually. So hopefully that helps. I think we're just right about at the end of our webinar. So I wanted to say thank you all for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. I want to thank Sivan for helping me out with managing the questions on the sidebar. And I am excited for you guys to go out now and actually log in. If you've been following along and doing stuff, great job. But hopefully you can understand how easy it is to get started. There are so many other wonderful things that Ivy is capable of. And one thing I want to leave you guys with is, regardless of whatever type of membership you have, whether you have a basic membership, an essential, or an unlimited membership, everybody has access to a 30-minute training call. So now that you've already kind of seen the basics, I really encourage you to get in touch with either your client success manager, or if you don't know who that is, email support@ivy.co, and they'll get you in touch with the person that can help you out with your 30-minute training session. And because now that you know the basics, you'll actually be able to dive into some of the more advanced features. So I hope that that information is helpful for you guys. Again, I want to thank you for being here with me today, and I hope that you all have the great rest of your week. And until we meet again, good luck and have fun. Take care. See you all later, hopefully. Bye-bye.